Harbor Freight's trigger clamp is $10. A Jorgensen trigger clamp is $20. How does the Harbor Freight at half the price handle my most difficult job that I normally use trigger clamps for? Harbor Freight claims 375 pounds of clamping force. Jorgensen claims 300 pounds of clamping force. I take both of those with a grain of salt, have no way of testing them. The Harbor Freight clamp weighs about 1.5 pounds. The Jorgensen clamp weighs a bit more, maybe about 25% more. I think most of that is the bar. The Jorgensen bar is on top. That's the thickness of it. It's much thicker than the Harbor Freight clamp. I'm going to measure both of those here in just a second. And, I think, again, the Jorgensen clamp comes out about 25% thicker than the Harbor Freight clamp. And it suggests to me that the Jorgensen clamp is just going to be a more sturdy, long-lasting clamp. The Jorgensen clamp is shown here about 20% thicker than the Harbor Freight. The jaws on the Harbor Freight are about 3 1/4, on the Jorgensen about 3 3/8, so that's pretty much a tie. Both sets of clamps have removable rubber pads. They're quite easy to remove and replace on both of them. The Jorgensen pads extend lower. I don't know why that is. They kind of go below the clamping surface. Maybe that's useful for something. I can't figure out what. Both sets of clamps can be converted to use as a spreader. It's easy to do on both of them. I fumble around a little bit on the Jorgensen here, but that's not the fault of the clamps. I just wasn't getting it straight in there. They're both equally easy to convert to spreaders. The Jorgensen clamp has one feature that the Harbor Freight clamp lacks. It's got these little dovetail connectors in the ends, and so you can hook two of the Jorgensen clamps together either as a spreader or as a clamp. And here I've got them hooked together as a spreader. So there's a 24-inch wide spreader. Could be a 24-inch wide clamp as well. The toughest job I have for these trigger clamps comes up when I'm replacing fence slats. The slats are 16 feet long. They're 5/4 wood, so they're pretty heavy. What I like to try to do is use a trigger clamp to temporarily tack it up in a balanced position that I can go to one end, stick a screw in, go to the other end, stick another screw in. And, that way with, just one person, I can put up these long fence slats. So the question is, will the Harbor Freight hold that fence slat as well as the Jorgensen? Okay, the Jorgensen's perfect for that. It works just right. It holds it on nice and tight so it doesn't slip, but at the same time I can adjust it up and down. Now to try the Harbor Freight. It's great, just as good. Everything I could measure suggested that the Jorgensen clamps are a more quality product than the Harbor Freight clamps. But the Jorgensen clamps are $20 each, Harbor Freight is $10 each. This is my hardest job, and the Harbor Freight clamps did just fine with those heavy fence slats. So I think the Harbor Freight clamps will work, 99% of the time, maybe more than that in the jobs that I do around here. So, despite Jorgensen being, maybe overbuilt for the job, the Harbor Freight ones seem just fine. And for $10 each, I think that's a pretty good bargain. Anyways, please like my video if you like it, and I invite you to subscribe. Thanks very much. Bye.